Hello everyone and welcome back to DTS Programming. My name is Daniel and this week I'll be presenting my Week 2, Project 2, Weapons and Power-Ups for GPE340, Programming with Game Engines for the University of Advancing Technology. So for this week we had to create a health and pickup system for our character. For some of the guidelines we had to meet, the character must have a health value which is displayed in the UI. Character should be able to pick up a variety of different weapons and use those different weapons. Inverse kinematics should control the character's movements. Weapons, pickups, and other elements must utilize object-oriented programming, and you should provide targets to be killed and implement a mechanic of your choosing for either health pickups or weapons. So going right into my project, first of all you can see that I have my character here from last week. I still have side-to-side movement, backwards, forwards, still following the mouse. I still have my dives. Animations look a little funny, but we'll cover that in a little bit. That has to do with the inverse kinematics, and I have jumping and crouching, all my features that I had from last week. So the first thing we're going to go into is showing that I can equip a variety of weapons with my weapon pickups. We'll go over that code first. So here we go, we have a weapon class. This is my mono behavior. I stored some inverse kinematic points on my weapons, right hand and left hand placement, created some firing events to run in the inspector. In my update, I'm calling the attack start function that just invokes my attack start event, and then there's an attack end function that invokes the attack end event. Moving over to my weapon rifle. As you can see, this is my rifle subclass that inherits from weapon. So starting off, I stored my rifle values. I got my mag capacity, that's amount of bullets that I can shoot. I have the game object for my bullet, the position that my bullet is going to instantiate, and then I created a burst fire setting. This will allow designers to determine how many shots are in a burst fire and the delay between those shots. So here you can see the public override of attack start from my base class. And this attack start, using polymorphism, I did a start coroutine called fire rifle. And here's where I start that coroutine through the IEnumerator fire rifle. I check if there's bullets in the magazine. Then I check if there is a rifle bullet prefab and that the left mouse button has been pressed. Then I go into a for loop, which iterates through the number of shots per burst as set by the designer. What that's going to do is it will then instantiate a bullet clone from my rifle bullet prefab at the firing position and the firing rotation. Then I'm going to reduce my magazine capacity count by 1, and here is my yield return wait for seconds with the passed in designer set burst delay, and that's so the bullets do not get stacked up on each other. And then you can have a rapid fire burst on just one mouse click. Down here, this code will run if the magazine goes empty, and that just displays a reload warning, which is only currently set to the console but could be displayed in the UI. Very similarly, I have my handgun subclass, which also inherits from weapon. I have my bullet count here for my handgun, bullet prefabs and firing positions, very similar. My override attack start from base class calls my fire gun. Again, I check if there's a bullet prefab and the key pressed is the mouse 1 or the right mouse. And then I will instantiate a bullet clone from the bullet prefab at the fire position and rotation and reduce the bullet count. And if the bullets are less than equal to 0, then I'll display the reload gun warning. So I only created the 2 projectile weapons, the handgun and the rifle. I'll go ahead and show those in the game now. Back in the game, you can see that I have my health value defined here, and these health values are for enemies that I have in the scene. So here we have my rifle pickup. I add a little rotation animation on it, a little up and down motion. So when I grab my rifle, you see it's now equipped. On the click, I get a rapid burst fire. Of course, those values can be adjusted. Shots per burst 3, we can make that 5. Burst delay 0.2, we can make it 0.4. And there you see we have 5 burst shot. It's a little bit slower. 0.2 seems to be the nicest. If I come over here and trip on these cans, you'll see that I have a reduction in my health. That was achieved through the simple damage dealer class, where it detects a collision between 2 objects, grabs the components from the other game object, grabs the health from the other game object. If it has a health, here's the check for health, and then it calls the take damage function from my health class. So going to my health class, you can see here I have my values set for max health, current health, and a respawn time for after death. Then I have a health percentage value, which I have hidden in the inspector. On awake, I set my current health to my max health. In the update, I get my health and my health percentages. So for get health, I have a function that returns a float, which is the current health. For my health percentage, I have a function that returns a float, which is my health percentage calculated by my current health divided by max health. Then I have a take healing function, which adds in the past in healing to the current health. Likewise, I have a take damage function that subtracts the past in damage from the current health. After checking if current health is greater than 0, if the current health is less than or equal to 0, then I call the dead pawn function. In dead pawn, I just set the game object to inactive, restore the health, set current health to max health, and invoke a respawn after a designer set amount of time, and respawn just sets the game object back to active. As a part of health, I have my UI element, which we've already seen. So here in my health text class, we have a required component, which is type of text mesh pro. First, I create an instance of health called health percent. Then I create a text mesh pro instance called health text. In my awake, I set the health text equal to the text mesh pro, and on my update, I set that text to the formatted string showing health with percentage, rounding that percentage to an integer, and multiplying by 100 to give a whole value instead of a decimal value. So back in the game, without those multiplication values, this would be showing up as a 0.91 or 0.88. Heading down the mountain, I set up some enemy targets. So once again, I have my burst fire rifle. Here's my handgun. You see now that I've switched my stance. I'm now holding the handgun with one hand. Looks like I might have hit some of my targets from across the map, but with my right mouse, you can see that these take damage and they are able to be killed with respawn times. So I'll have to work on respawning them back into their original positions and rotations. They also have damage dealers on them, so you see if I run into them, I lose health. If I come over here, I have my healing pickup. See, my health is at 68, and now it is at 73. And of course I could cheat and keep waiting for this to respawn to 78 and 83. My handgun is single bullet on the mouse click. If we go to our scene and take a closer look, you can see here I am with my rifle equipped. Taking a look at inverse kinematics, if I move this rifle around, my arms are going to move with it. If I move it too far, they're going to go as far as they can go. So here in my animator, I kept it very simple with my inverse kinematics. I had this set up for the weight to be in my arms only. As you can see by this setting here, I've restricted movement in all other parts except for my arms, my hands, and the inverse kinematic points. I currently only have this set up with idle animation. This is idle with a weapon and idle without a weapon. My transitions, very simple, has weapon false, has weapon true. Blending is override, so my arms override any other animations that I'm doing. And I have my IK pass check on. And so whatever is in this field here is what I'm going to be reaching for. This is on my weapon script. And again, if we take a quick look at my weapon script, you see that I defined my inverse kinematic points for my left and right hand. You can see that I've also defined my left and right hand positions on my rifle. Wherever I move those positions, wherever I rotate them, that's where my hands are going to go. Again, taking a closer look at my handgun, same as my rifle, inverse kinematics for only one hand. The other hand is not moving. Here you can see on my handgun, I only have a right hand position. And on my player, you can see if I don't have a right and left hand defined, that it only goes to the right hand position. Otherwise, it goes into the idle position where both hands are by the side. Here you can also see a closer look at my pickup. I have up and down and the spinning. This is not done in script, this is actually just done with animation. So here you can see my very simple animation for this. I have a position rotation. The rotation just spins it 360 degrees over about 3 minutes, and the position just causes it to go up and come back down. And finally, just to make sure that it's covered, going back to health one more time, you can see my health at 82% is also showing as 82% in my inspector. And here you have my max health value and the respawn time for my character, which I only set to 1 second. But those values do correlate with what's going on in the screen. You can watch that change as I run into these buckets. So that has been my week 2 project. See, my character still has motion. I can equip multiple weapons. They have different shooting mechanisms. I added a burst fire feature for my rifle. I use inverse kinematics. I have pickups that rotate and move up and down. I can pick up my pickups by walking over them. They respawn after a set amount of time. I have base classes and subclasses. I've shown inheritance, polymorphism. I have a UI for my health and enemies' health. I had enemies that can take damage, that can be killed, and that will also respawn. I have commented all my code and used sensible naming conventions. And so that has been Project 2 Weapons and Power-Ups for GPE340, Programming with Game Engines at the University of Advancing Technology.